doing out there today? This is your boy Roto Beast. I'm here with my boy Jeremy, aka DFS Dudes, and we're here to present you our NFL Week 12 picks. If you're new to this channel, please make sure to click the subscribe button below. This way you can watch all of our NFL, NBA, and MLB videos. And if you haven't came and checked out our website here at dfscheatsheet.com, you're absolutely missing out. We have all the tools to help you compete with the pros day in and day out, including a complete optimizer, tons of content, everything that you need, daily Fanduel and Draftkings cash lineup. And we're truly a one-stop shop for all your DFS needs. Hey, so make sure to come check out the site, dfscheatsheet.com. So, hey, how you doing out there, Jeremy?
What's up, man? I'm doing good. Ready to get into some NFL. Smashed on the Thursday slate. Looking to get into the Sunday slate. We've done a lot of work on it, so let's get into it, man. Before we do, though, let's pop up a couple of things just so everybody can see who watches the video. A couple of new things on the site for both the NBA and the NFL. You can check out the game preview here. You'll have all the lines since we're on NFL. We'll check out the NFL game preview. You can basically get into it by slate. Check out all the Vegas lines. We'll go to the main slate here and check that out. So there you go. Boom. You've got all of the lines here. Accessible from the homepage. Just click the drop-down menu. Another thing that we've added as well, we're going to keep this free for a couple of days until we're done with this particular part of the process. So tonight you can go and check out our DVP plays, sorted down with the breakdown, top plays on the slate based on the best matchups, defense versus position. That's also up on the site now and updated for tonight's slate. And then we will be launching our cheat sheet in the next couple of days that will also go on the site. I'll email that cheat sheet out to everybody today so they get it because it's not on the site yet, but that will be something in the member area, member only area, paid member area. And then the last thing, we had a huge hit last night and yesterday with our Black Friday sale, and we got some messages today with people asking if they could take advantage of the Black Friday sale. So what we're going to do is Cyber Monday is coming up on Monday. So for we're going to call it Cyber Weekend. We're going to give you guys 25% off. We'll drop the promo code in the chat on this as well. Let me pull that promo code up really quick. Our developers just sent it to me. I got to find it. That promo code is CBM25. CBM25. We'll drop it in the chat here on this video as well. So that's kind of where I'm at, man, with the updates on what's going on with the site. We're going to be constantly pumping out new content, constantly pumping out new tools to use within the optimizer as well.
Yeah, so, hey, every day it seems like we're adding something new, adding new functions, adding new content, adding things to the optimizer, and we're growing rapidly. I mean, I don't understand. If you guys haven't, jumped on and start making some money with us, like obviously you don't like making money. So make sure to check out the site, dfscheatsheet.com. And yeah, man, so I'm ready to talk some NFL if you're ready to go.
Yeah, let's hop into it.
Cool. So first game we're going to get into, this is kind of an ugly game in my opinion, but you got the Oakland Raiders going into Baltimore to face the Ravens. This game has a 42.5 implied total, and Baltimore's favored by 11 in this one. And I do want to mention as well that Baltimore is favored by 11, and Joe Flacco is not even going to play. So that's just telling you how bad the Raiders are. So go ahead and get us started, as always, with the visitor side of things.
Moving on. Moving on.
Hey, I'm with you. No problem, bro. Hey, I honestly don't blame you. So, no,
hey, the only person that I'll look at all in this game is there's two guys that I would possibly play, maybe three if you want to get crazy. But Jared Cook, the guy's going to get targets. He's a tournament option only at tight end at 5,700. Jalen Richard, you could play him if you want as a flex spot if you're feeling kind of freaky, I guess. And then if you really are feeling freaky and you want to plug in the muscle hamster as your maybe a absolute deep dart contrarian play as your running back number 2, those are the only 3 spots you can look at. I'm not looking anywhere else. There's no reason to.
Yeah. I mean, on the Baltimore side of things, I like this guy, Lamar Jackson. I mean, 7,400, it's a decent price tag. Thing about him is it's like, you know what? If he's going to rush the ball, as much as he did last week, 27 – what do you have? Yeah, 27 carries for 117 yards. then I mean you got to definitely like this guy. The Bengals, I mean they're decent. Their defense is decent. So I mean he went 13 for 19, 150 throwing yards as well with the interception. This week, I definitely think going against a Raiders defense who's absolutely horrible, I definitely think that Lamar Jackson is going to throw for at least one touchdown, possibly two touchdowns. So if you got a guy that he's the quarterback, he's going to throw for two touchdowns, get you those throwing points, like we usually get with our quarterbacks. Plus, he's going to rush close to 20 times in a game. You're getting like a quarterback and a running back combined. I really like him in this spot. I definitely think he's a really good GPP play. I'm definitely going to have some shares of Lamar Jackson. For me, I'm not going to say he's a cash game play, but he does have some upside. I do really like him on this slate. The running back situation, I'm not really going to mess with. I definitely think you could pair a guy, Lamar Jackson, with like a Michael Crabtree, who 5,400 is a really, really good price for Michael Crabtree. I understand he's had a couple, rough games recently, but we know this guy catches balls, and it's all about if the ball gets thrown to him. And I definitely think that you could pair him. 5,400 is I'm willing to take the flyer in GPPs and pair Jackson with Crabtree. But that's really it for me. I'm not really looking at any of the Baltimore plays. The only guy I really like is Lamar Jackson.
I got it.
Cool.
I'm cool with it.
Next game we're going to move on to, it's going to be the Seattle Seahawks going into Carolina to face the Panthers. This game is actually a really important game for both teams for playoff implications. I think it's going to be a really good game. You got this game has a 46.5 over and under, and Vegas has Carolina favored by 3.5 in this one.
Yes, this is like you said, this is an important game for both teams. I mean, wild card implications are all over this game. If you want to take a look at matchups from a matchup standpoint, Russell Wilson has not played well in his career at Carolina. There's just a couple of games you can look to. There's a playoff game that, Seattle got the doors blown off of them at Carolina the year Carolina went to the Super Bowl. Russell Wilson hasn't played well at Carolina. I don't like West Coast teams going across the country to the East Coast and playing in this 10 a.m. spot, 1 p.m. for them. They're playing a 10 a.m. game across the country. And history has showed us that the West Coast teams don't do very well going across country. So having said that, I'm not really looking to target anybody on the Seattle side either. From a matchup standpoint, I get you could play Carson if you want to get there. They're 25th. Carolina's 25th in DVOA to the pass. So if you want to load up Russell Wilson, the one guy to tag him with is Tyler Lockett. He's got the biggest upside at 6,300. They're 26th to wide receiver number 2, so that bodes well again for Tyler Lockett if you want to pair him up. And then they're 30th in DVOA to tight ends. I just don't, I'm not really looking to target Van Nett, but I get it. You could play Van Nett if you want to at 5,000 in the tight end spot. Tight end's just an ugly position this year as a whole. It's been an ugly position every single week. There's been a couple of really obvious plays at tight end, and then other than that, it's just not a pretty spot. So if you want to take a chance with a Van Nett against a Carolina team that's 30th in DVOA to tight ends, by all means, he's really viable in tournaments, and that's really it for me.
Yeah, I mean, on the Carolina things, I'm just going to keep it short and simple. Obviously, you got to like Cam. Cam, the fact that he runs the ball, he gives you a really good floor for your cash games. Seattle's defense isn't the same defense that they used to be, that we used to always be scared of. I definitely think Cam is in play. The only thing about him is his price tag is up. 8,600 is the price tag is up there for sure. So I think Cam is strictly GPP for me. McCaffrey as well, GPP play, 8,400. I mean, the prices are just up there. It is what it is. And yeah, I mean, he's had some really good games, but he's had a couple stinkers as well. So, I mean, I'm not going to feel safe paying 8,400 for him in my cash games this week. Strictly GPP, but I will have a couple shares of him. This guy DJ Moore, he's been the guy that Cam's been going to, and then he's last game he had a really good game against Detroit. And one thing I do want to note though is we all know Detroit doesn't have the best defense. Please don't expect this guy to go out there and put up another 21.7. It's not going to happen, in my opinion. But I definitely think he can get you a solid 12 to 15 fantasy points. Maybe get you a touchdown, sneak that in there. So I think DJ Moore is a good GPP play. And lastly, you got Greg Olsen. He's the red zone target when they want to throw it. They throw it to Greg Olsen in the red zone. So he does have some touchdown upside, but it really is. I mean, just like it says right here, just like in our news feed is saying, hey, it can't be more clear. Greg Olsen is a touchdown or bust this week. Hey, perfectly clear. Let me move on to the next game. You ready?
Yeah.
Hey, like Carolina, bro. I mean, don't get me wrong, they have some okay plays, but they're all just GPP for me, and they're just so inconsistent. It's all about Cam. Sometimes he can throw a fucking accurate pass, and sometimes he can't. You see them on that 2-point conversion. He had the guy wide open. Literally lost the game on a stupid ass overthrow. It's frustrating.
I don't think that Cam. That's the one knock I've always had on Cam, and I've argued with a ton of people about this. I don't think his numbers are far more deceiving than the way he actually plays. He's not an accurate passer, man. He's not.
Yeah, and one more guy I want to mention, because our boy in the chat room, Do TV, he wanted me to mention quickly. This guy Curtis Samuel, the guy actually has had a couple solid games on the year. Definitely think you could consider him as well. Like I said, I mean, the only problem with the wide receivers and the McCaffreys and the Greg Olsen is Cam is inconsistent throwing the ball. I mean, it is what it is. But let's move on.
The crazy thing is, dude, about this game is Seattle's much better than people think they are. Seattle's a much better team defensively than people think they are. I mean, outside of giving a little bit up to wide receiver number ones and tight ends, which they're 21st against tight ends and 20th to wide receiver number ones, they're 10th overall in DVOA. So overall defensively, they're 10th. They're basically 13th against the pass, 18th against the run. So it's not a bad defensive team in Seattle. They've played very well. They've played some really tough teams. I mean, the NFC West it's got the Rams in it, so you got to start there with that. So Seattle's a much better team than what people think they are.
Yeah, no, for sure. So moving on to the next game. This is the ugly game. This is almost a stay away from me as well. You got Jacksonville Jaguars going into Buffalo to face the Bills. This game has a 37 over and under, and Vegas has Jacksonville favored by 3 in this one.
So I told you I'm not a big fan of taking West Coast teams going east and playing in this 10 a.m. slot, right? I am also not a big fan of warm weather teams going into the cold weather. Will be 40 degrees or colder in Buffalo. Buffalo, as far as DVOA goes, they are second in total defense this year. DVOA, they're number 1 against the pass, 10th against the run. The only weak spot has been to wide receiver number 3s. So if you want to look at a Westbrook or somebody like that, by all means, go ahead. But other than that, I really like Buffalo's defense, and I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, so for me, two
actually, hey, I don't want to interrupt you, but I would be remiss if I didn't point out the fact before everybody, asks about him. Leonard Fournette up to 8,100. Don't like the matchup. They're, 10th in DVOA against the run. It's cold. The guy's had leg injuries. I just don't like this spot for Leonard Fournette at all.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people talking about him around the industry. I'm not on Fournette as well, so definitely, I think I'm glad that we see eye to eye with that play.
And hey, honestly, I've been on the guy the last 2 weeks, and I've been heavy on the guy the last 2 weeks, and I'm jumping straight off this week.
Right. So on Buffalo side of things, 2 plays only. LaShawn McCoy finally had a good game. I'm not going to chase the game. I'm probably not going to really play McCoy, maybe 2 or 3 lineups. Jacksonville's defense is still a good defense. And McCoy, 6,000, it's a crazy good price tag for him. But, I mean, the offense just isn't very good for Buffalo. I mean, honestly, I expect Jacksonville to just stack the box on McCoy because Buffalo can't throw the ball around. I definitely think McCoy is a decent GPP play. And then, like you mentioned, I also do like the Buffalo defense going against Jacksonville. It's crazy because, people usually as they get starts in the NFL, they get better, they get experience, they get confidence. And Blake Bortles, in my opinion, has just regressed. Like, the guy is just horrible, in my opinion. And so I do like the Buffalo defense. Definitely think that they can have a good game here. So I'm ready to move on. It's just maybe McCoy and a couple of GPP lineups, some Buffalo defense, and call it a day.
Move on.
Cool. Next game we got is going to be the New England Patriots going into New York to face the Jets. This game has a 46.5 over and under, and New England's favored by 10.5 in this one. And one thing I do want to know is, New England just lost to the Titans. So I expect them to come out here and just give the New York Jets an old-fashioned ass whooping.
I think so does Vegas, right? I mean, they just lost to Tennessee, and they're this opened at 7.5, and now it's 10.5. It's moved 3 points in New England's direction. So they have the second highest implied total on the board at 28.5. You've got to like Tom Brady a lot in this one. The problem is price, right? I mean, there's other spots. You know, do you want to pay up $8,200? And I get it. This is a $9,500 quarterback in years past, $10,000 years past. $8,200 seems like a really good deal on Tom Brady. Do you want to pay for it when you got some other guys on the board? The one guy you've already mentioned in Baltimore, and another guy we'll mention coming up here pretty quick. So you got to like anytime that there's the second highest implied total, you have to target players from this. There's still some injury situations we're waiting to hear on. Sonny Michel, you know, a 6,600. I really like this guy. If he's gonna play, I like him a lot. You gotta like Edelman. Edelman hasn't had a solid year so far, but look, man, the guy that I like the most is Josh Gordon. I mean, Josh Gordon he's had a really good year. He just hasn't scored touchdowns. You know, 8.1. He gets 19 against Green Bay, 4.2 against Buffalo, 10 against Chicago. The guy is getting targets. He's getting receptions. He just hasn't scored touchdowns yet. And I think that's going to come. I think that's going to come. I think I'm actually just popping up our newsfeed right here and says he could be a game changer this week. It's one of the articles we've got on it. So I like Josh Gordon a lot. I think the return of Gronk does help Josh Gordon out. It helps the passing game out. You take a look at Gronk, questionable, 6,900. This is a cheap price tag for Gronkowski. It's an $8,000 player. There's a cheap price tag at $6,900 for Gronk. So obviously we want to watch the injury news on that. But yeah, I like the Patriots. I think the Patriots could be. I just have a feeling the Patriots could be a little under-owned in tournaments this week because it's just not a sexy spot for them playing the Jets. It's not a sexy spot to take a lot of Patriots players, but I do like them. You look at the Jets. The best matchup on the board really is wide receiver number 3s, which would give you really Edelman. That's kind of the spot he's playing in. And then, you know, versus the run, Sonny Michel, they're 17th against the run and DVOA. So that's kind of the breakdown there.
Yeah, I mean, can I just go complete skip on the Jets side of things?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, one guy asked, what do I think about Anua? Anua, earlier in the year, he was doing well. Don't get me wrong, but it just hasn't been there. I mean, he hasn't got more than 4 fantasy points in 5 straight games with actually a couple of zeros and a negative in there. Yeah, no thank you. Moving on. Let's get to this next game. Real quick before I do get to this next game, bro, you want to know what I'm noticing quickly? I'm noticing quickly that, bro, all the good games were on Thursday, and Thursday was one of the juiciest slates I've ever seen. And now we're getting to tomorrow, and it's getting ugly.
Yeah, there'll be a couple good games in the slate. I mean, San Francisco.
I know, but usually we have like 5 or 6. You know, right now I'm seeing.
Oh yeah, there's not. This is a bad week in NFL, man. This is really bad.
Right now I'm seeing like 2, maybe 3, possibly. You know. So let's get to this next game. Next game we're going to talk about is going to be the Cleveland Browns going into Cincinnati to face the Bengals. This game has a 46 over and under, and Cincinnati's favored by 1 in this one.
Right off the bat, the first guy.
Yeah. Quick question: what's going on with the Bengals, bro?
This happens every year with the Bengals, and then they find a way to get the last seed in the playoffs, and then Marvin Lewis keeps his job, and it's just.
Is that how this? I thought it was just me. They start strong. They have a shitty middle of the half, and like you said, then they'll sneak in the very end.
And then Marvin Lewis keeps his job, and right. Everything stays the same. I mean, Marvin Lewis should have been fired probably 3 years ago, but he's kept his job. I mean, he's kept his job. The owner there loves him, and this is kind of what we get every single year with him.
Yeah, so get us going on the Browns. I actually like the Browns.
I mean, even going back to when they had Bernard and what's his name, dude, and they wouldn't pick a running back. You know what I mean? Like, it's just always a mess there. So there's some good spots to attack on the Cleveland side. Definitely Nick Chubb is a very good play in this one. I like Chubb at 7,500. I think this is a very good price to get Nick Chubb. You start taking a look at the DVOA numbers, and you know the Browns are in a good spot. The Bengals are 30th in DVOA against the run. They're 32nd in DVOA against pass catching running backs. So Nick Chubb is a guy I really like this week at $7,500. I also really like Callaway, and I really like Jarvis Landry. And then, the one guy that I'm not looking to play that we've played a lot of this year is Njoku. He is questionable at the moment. I fully expect him to play, but this is not a guy that I'm looking to really attack. They play this kind of Tampa 2 defense. Middle of the field gets taken up. I think this is more of a Callaway Landry game. It matches up that way from a DVOA standpoint, and we have enough data. 11 weeks into the season, we're in week 12 now. We have enough data where DVOA really is pretty accurate. So, you're looking at Cincinnati 27th overall in DVOA, 30th to the run, 32nd to running backs, pass catching running backs, 27th to wide receiver number 2. So that's really what I'll target. I may have a little exposure to Baker Mayfield because the slate's so bad for quarterbacks. A Baker Mayfield is a pretty good play on this particular slate, but Nick Chubb is my main target on the Cleveland side, and I do like Callaway for wide receiver number 3 at $4,800.
Yeah, then on the Cincinnati side of things, man, bro, I don't really care for nobody here. I guess you can do Andy Dalton as a GPP play. 7,500 though. There's some other people that I definitely think are in the same price range that I'd much rather go with. Andy Dalton's a decent play, I guess, for GPP. The running back spot, Joe Mixon is their best running back, but they just don't understand that. They still want to keep giving Gio Bernard a lot of snaps as well. I would love for them to kind of just be like, hey, Joe Mixon, this is your stuff, and barely just sprinkle in Gio a little bit. So I'm not really going to go with the running back situation. And then you go to wide receiver. One thing, I do think that A.J. Green is going to be back this week. A lot of people were on Tyler Boyd last week, but I didn't like him, with A.J. Green gone because defenses are going to concentrate on Boyd. Now with A.J. Green back, I like the spot even more. And I think that Tyler Boyd is probably my favorite play of the Cincinnati side of things. And that's really it for me, man. I'm not really interested in the Cincinnati Bengals too much.
Yeah, this is a boring slate so far.
Right. So this game actually I think is going to be a pretty good game. Both teams, we know as Cowboys fans, the NFC East is wide open still, and whoever wins this game is still going to have a chance in the division. So I think this is a big-time game for both of them. You got the New York Giants going into Philadelphia to face the Eagles. This game has a 48 over and under, and Philadelphia is favored by 5.5 in this one.
And Philadelphia has not been good defensively all year. I liked them early on in the season. I thought they were a cheap defense, and I thought they were being disrespected because they were a championship defense, but their defense hasn't been good all year. 22nd overall in DVOA, 22nd against the run, 24th against pass catching running backs, 30th against wide receiver number 2s, and that leads me to my number 1 target in this game for the Giants, which is Sterling Shepard. I like this guy a lot this week. I think that he's got a real opportunity to have a really nice game at $6,000, good mid-tier play. Outside of that, Saquon Barkley, the guy's a beast. The guy's going to continue to eat. He's going to continue to get production on, both sides of the offense. He's going to continue to get the checkdowns. He's going to continue to be involved in the passing game with screens, and they're going to keep feeding him the rock, man. This New York Giant. So kind of funny that the game before this is Cincinnati, and you ask the question, hey, what's going on with the Bengals? Because the exact same thing is going on with the Giants. It seems to happen year in and year out. They start the year like shit, and then all of a sudden, here we are, week 12, week 13. They're looking like they got a chance to win a wild card, and they find their way in the playoffs or sneaking away to win the NFC East. So here's the Giants. They've got an opportunity. They're starting to play better. They're playing kind of like I think they thought they played in the beginning of the year, but their offensive line was terrible. I do like their core group of guys, and that's Eli, Odell, but I like Sterling Shepard a hell of a lot more than I like Odell this week. And then you have to like Saquon Barkley. He's really probably one of the top 1 or 2 running backs on the entire slate. Gurley going against Arizona should be popular, but Saquon Barkley is going to probably have more opportunities because they're more reliant on his production than the Rams are on Gurley's.
Yeah, on the Philadelphia side of things, I'll start off first thing first. Carson Wentz came out after last week's game, and he said, I think today was the worst game I've ever had in my whole entire football career. He's talking about Pee Wee, high school, college, NFL. Worst game he's ever played. And we know Carson Wentz is really good. So I expect him to bounce back this game against the Giants defense, who isn't very scary at all. Carson Wentz has a ton of weapons on the outside. I think Carson Wentz is going to have a really, really good week. Bounce back from last week. I think he's a good GPP play. Not really going to play him in cash, but I do really like Carson Wentz this week. You go to the running back spot. This guy Josh Adams, he's the one that's been getting the bulk of the load. Hey, bro, one thing I just want to quickly know is, bro, our news feed has been on point, bro. I mean, it's telling you right here. The dude has upside going against the Giants. 55% of the snaps, he's running the ball, getting some passes, etc. So I definitely think he's in play. But based off my opinion, we got the same opinion. He's strictly deep GPP play. Throw him in 2 or 3 lineups if you're running 150. Definitely not a cash game play. But, 5,700 is cheap. And I wouldn't blame you if you were trying to pay up in other spots with GPP and you threw him in a couple lineups. Definitely think he'll get the goal line carries as well if they get down on the, inside the 5. So I think that he's a deep GPP play, Josh Adams. And then the wide receiver spot. I think it's a great spot. Alshon Jeffries that have a really good game. He hasn't had a monster game in a while. He had, but last time they played the Giants, he had a really good game, 19.4 fantasy points. And then, he's been kind of down right now. Definitely think he can bounce back, have a great game in this spot. You got Golden Tate. I'm not going to pay $6,500 for Golden Tate. They're still trying to figure out how they're going to use him in the offense. If I was going to pay down outside of Jeffries, I would definitely go. You can look at both of these guys, Aguilar, but he's been very inconsistent. The guy that I like that he started to pick up a lot of catches, and he actually used to be with Philadelphia before they liked him, but they ended up trading him, is you got Matthews. This guy's not doing nothing special, but 4.7, that's very close to minimum price, and I expect Wentz to throw the ball around a lot. Like I said, we just talked about 4 really good receivers that he has. That's 4 good receivers. We didn't even get to the tight end yet. Zach Ertz, the best tight end in the league. He has 5 really good people to throw to this week, going against a Giants team that, like I said, defense isn't very good. I definitely like pretty much all the receivers for the Eagles, and I like Wentz to bounce back. But they are all, GPP for me, like I said. And then you could even throw in a little bit of Eagles defense. We know that Eli Manning is definitely prone to giveaways and stuff like that. So that's really where I'm at, man. I do like the Eagles offense and their defense this week going against the Giants. I think Eagles are going to bounce back at home and have a great game.
Moving on.
Hey, it's sad to say, bro, but this is the game I like a lot. Bro, these 2 horrible-ass teams, bro. I love this game. So you got San Francisco 49ers going into Tampa Bay to face the Bucs. This game has a 53.5 implied total, the highest total on the slate. Tampa Bay is favored by 2.5 in this one.
Yeah, so the unfortunate thing for me about this game is Marquise Goodwin has been downgraded to doubtful.
You see that, bro. And he would have been a lock.
It's unfortunate. So maybe that takes some ownership off of Nick Mullins, but I fully expect this guy to be ridiculously owned tomorrow. His 2 starts both coming in prime time, a Thursday night game against Oakland where he just goes out and balls, and then only 10.1 fantasy points against the Giants, but that was also a Monday Night Football game. So my point being, his 2 starts come in prime time with the world watching. Everybody now knows who Nick Mullins is. It's unfortunate because you see Nick Mullins against the worst defense in the NFL in almost every DVOA category. 31st overall, 30th versus the pass, 27th against the run, 28th the wide receiver 1, 31st the wide receiver 2s, 31st the tight ends. So to me, the guy to pair him with now is obviously my boy, the tight end, George Kittle. Kittles and Bits. I've been on Kittles and Bits all year long. Been on him since last year. This guy's been my favorite tight end. I told everybody, like in the beginning of the year, you can go back and check the videos. This guy would be a $7,000 tight end by the time the season was over. $7,500. He's worth all of it. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I could pull them up and give you guys that stat, but the amount of targets that he's gotten in the last 2 weeks is insane. Mullins is literally dropping back, and he's looking only to throw the ball to Kittle. it's insane. So Kittle is by far, for me, the number one person to pair him with. I do like this game a lot as well. I think Bridia is a fine play tomorrow. I love the play of Bridia, So that, to me, you're talking about Joshua Adams at 5,700. I would much rather spend 700 more on Bridia because I think there's a good value at the mid-tier at wide receiver tomorrow. So, I'd much rather go with Bridia. I think Bridia is going to be in a ton of my lineups at this running back number 2 spot, pairing him up with Gurley and Saquon Barkley a lot. I even think, we'll get into that game as well. But James Conner, I like him as well. But Bridia at 6,400, love this play. So Mullins, I think, is a fantastic play at 6,000. Bridia at 6,400. I really wish Marquise Goodwin was playing, but he's now doubtful. He's only 5,000. I mean, if some sort of a miracle happens and Goodwin does end up making the trip out there and playing, then, lock him in as well. But by far, Kittle and Mullins and Bridia, lock them up.
Yeah, on the Tampa Bay side of things, there's a couple good plays that we could look at as well. For me, in all honesty, I'm just staying away from the damn quarterback situation. You got Winston. You got Fitzpatrick. Bro, I don't understand what they're doing. You're playing bad today, so second half we're going to start this guy. Or this guy is playing bad, so we're going to start this guy in the second half. Bro, this makes absolute no sense. I don't understand what they're doing. Like, pick your quarterback and just move on. I mean, it is what it is. I personally think Jameis Winston, he's already had, 4 or 5 years in Tampa Bay. It's just not working. Let his ass go. But on the flip side, one thing I do just want to mention quickly is Jameis Winston is a guy, if he's going to play the whole game, he has upside. We've seen it earlier in the year. He definitely has upside. But I'm scared. It is what it is. So I'm just staying away from the quarterback situation altogether. I'm not looking at the running backs. My favorite play on the Tampa Bay side of things is going to be Mike Evans. Mike Evans, he, in my opinion, he does better when Jameis Winston is quarterback. Jameis Winston likes Mike Evans a lot. But for me, I mean, I think this is the week if he was going to have, a big-time game coming off his last good game against the Giants, back-to-back weeks where we're going to get a little bit of consistency. I definitely think that he can have a really good week. The 49ers secondary isn't very good. I mean, they got Richard Sherman. All they have to do is really line up Evans on the opposite side. But yeah, man, I like Mike Evans. He's really the only guy I'm looking at on the Tampa Bay side of things. I guess you could possibly throw in Brait for 4,400, but I mean, come on, man. I don't want to pay for a guy who's getting 1.6, 1.4, 1.5, 1.3. And then one thing I even want to mention, this Atlanta game, he got 7.5, but he literally got 1 catch, 1 touchdown for 7.5. That was like 2 minutes into the game and didn't do nothing after that. I'm just going to stay away from Bray. I'm not excited about him, but I am really excited about Mike Evans. He's my favorite play and probably the only guy I'm really going to play on the Tampa Bay side of things.
I'm not. I'm playing Adam Humphries and Chris Goodwin. I'm definitely locking those dudes up. You can go all the way back and watch games from early in the season against the 49ers. They struggle with crossing routes. They struggle with really quick wide receivers going over the middle and running crossing routes and deep posts. Chris Goodwin does both those things, and Adam Humphries is a really good wide receiver, number 3. The 49ers not good in DVOA against wide receiver number 3s. They're actually 31st in the league, the wide receiver number 3. So I love Goodwin. I love Humphries. I think this is a good mini stack, a game to mini stack for sure. Getting, like a Mullins, taking, a couple of wide receivers. You want to go Mike Evans and Adam Humphries, or Adam Humphries and Chris Goodwin, and then throwing in Kittle. I think that's an outstanding mini stack for this game.
Hey, so are you playing Jameis Winston?
I'm going to play Jameis Winston tomorrow for one reason, because the majority of people have the same mentality or mindset on the situation that you do. Just stay away from it because you know what's going to happen. But to me, a straight tournament player, I love situations like that because ownership is low. I'm almost guaranteeing that I'm going to get a guy at a very, very depressed ownership tomorrow because people don't want to play him, because if he does throw 1 or 2 picks, he's going to be out of the game. But on the flip side of that, it's probably a 50-50. It's a coin flip that he throws 3 touchdowns and 1 pick, or he throws 3 picks and no touchdowns, and Fitzmagic is in playing the second half. So
Right.
I like it for tournaments.
Yeah, no, I definitely think maybe, 5 lines with Jameis Winston, stack him with his weapons. Maybe we like to do a couple game stacks within our 150 lines we usually do. So definitely could see a couple GPP lines with Winston, but I'm not going to have too much exposure of him. And then like you said, I'm not trying to backtrack, but you brought up Mullins. I just like you talked about it, bro. I absolutely love Mullins this week, and I think I'm gonna have so much exposure, dude. I'm on kind of do or dying with him. I mean, 6,000, you can get anybody you want on the slate if you go with Mullins, and he has the upside for sure. He definitely has some upside. He went against when he went against Oakland, 22 fantasy points. Even if he got me 16, 17 fantasy points on 6,000, I would love it. And yeah, man, I don't want to keep going on about Mullins, but I do really like him. I'm ready to move on to the next game.
For sure.
Cool. Next game we got is going to be the Arizona Cardinals going into Los Angeles to face the Chargers. This game has a 43.5 over and under, and Vegas has the Chargers favored by 13 in this one.
Nobody I'm going to play in this game at all. It's a cash play, but if you want to look at some tournament plays in this game, you definitely can with a Larry Fitzgerald and a Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk's still too cheap, in my opinion. The guy does a lot of stuff. Sometimes he returns kicks. He does return punts. He also is their number 2 wide receiver. If you look, the Rams, not a great defense, obviously. They've had spots this year where they've given up a ton of points. They're a clutch defense. When the game's on the line, they got that defensive line that can dial it up and come after the quarterback. We know for a fact that Arizona is going to be trailing in this game. Arizona is not going to get up by 2 touchdowns and try and grind this out. They're going to be coming from behind. So that means Josh Rosen's going to have to throw it, which means targets for Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk. And then, for me, two things that I love to look at when I make decisions on my wide receiver pool, DVOA and then cornerback rating. And, it's well documented. Marcus Peters has really struggled. He's really struggled the last couple of weeks. I know he had a pick and came up in a big spot against Kansas City in prime time on Monday night, but he's struggled. Marcus Peters has struggled this year, and they, as a whole, haven't played really well against wide receivers. 21st to wide receiver number 1s, 18th to wide receiver number 2s. So 2 tournament plays, definitely right there. And then I do think for tournaments that you can look at the running back position and you can look at David Johnson at 7,900. I don't like the price. But as we start breaking the slate down, man, and we're getting deeper and deeper into it, there's just not a lot of running backs on the slate that you want to pay for. And to me, I say it every time we do one of these videos, whether it's for NFL or NBA, in NBA, minutes equal opportunity, opportunity equals fantasy points. Listen, in NFL, it's touches. Touches equal opportunity, and opportunity equals fantasy points. David Johnson will get touches tomorrow. That's just a fact. It's going to happen. And this is a division rivalry game, so I don't fully expect the Chargers to just come in here and blow these guys out. But I do like David Johnson. I do like him in a couple of different spots.
Yeah. So just real quick, it's not a division rivalry.
That's my bad. I was looking at. I get caught up still, bro, on LA. The Chargers are a San Diego team to me. I call them the San Diego Chargers. I do it all the time.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so real quick, one thing I do want to mention is I feel that you hit the nail right on the head. There isn't a lot of running backs. We don't have the Ezekiel Elliott's on this slate. We don't have the Kamaras. We don't have the Todd Gurleys. So the first place I'm going to start with, if you're looking for some consistency and paying up somewhere, I think it's Melvin Gordon, man. I definitely think so. I mean, this guy, he's been very consistent. I mean, if you look in the past, pretty much all season. I mean, I don't think he really got lower than 14 fantasy points. He has 30 fantasy point upside. We know that. Arizona isn't the best against really good running backs. And the cool thing about Melvin Gordon is he's getting so many catches. It's not just about his carries as a running back. He's getting a lot of catches. Definitely think he gives us a solid floor, and he's probably the top running back at the very top if you want to pay up and get some safety in the position. You can look at Phillip Rivers, but 8,300, the price tag is where it should be. It's not really a give me price tag. Maybe you throw him in a couple of GPPs, But, I mean, he just really hasn't been giving us too much outside of the very first game of the season where he got 29 fantasy points. I mean, he hasn't really given us too much upside. 22 is the most he's got outside of the very first game of the season. So I don't like the price tag on Rivers. And then you can look at Keenan Allen, 7,700. He's been consistent for the most part as well. We know that he is Phillip Rivers' best favorite target. You talked about Peters hasn't been playing very well. I like Allen. I definitely like Allen, and I like Gordon. I know that those are their main two weapons, but I mean that's sometimes on teams that's all they got, and those guys get the ball forced to them over and over and over again. And then lastly, I mean, I just want to quickly mention the Chargers defense. The Chargers defense has been playing pretty well on the season. They're going against, a quarterback that nobody, really, knows, in my opinion. Rosen is not – I don't think he's a very good quarterback. I mean, I guess he's been decent ups and down, but I'm not really scared of this dude at all. I like the Chargers defense to have a really good day, and they're actually one of my top defenses, period, point blank, on this slate.
The thing is with Melvin Gordon is he's a game-time decision as of right now with his – leg injury. So you can get Melvin Gordon. I look for his ownership to be depreciated unless we
play too.
Huh?
I expect him to play.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? He's got questionable tag next to him, and he's playing in the afternoon games, and they're not going to announce it. Probably most likely there'll be no news on Melvin Gordon playing until 12 o'clock tomorrow Pacific time, because the NFL rule is an hour and a half before kickoff, you have to announce active, inactive. So we're not going to know anything on Melvin Gordon, which to me makes him 100% a tournament play unless news comes out in the morning tomorrow before lock that, hey, Melvin Gordon's playing.
Right. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. You're saying the average Joe is going to see the questionable tag and say, hey, man, I'm scared of this. I'm going to stay away. That's pretty much what you're saying.
I'm saying I think period point that also, but I mean, I don't think you can play the guy in cash unless you have news that he's going to play before lineup lock, because the game's at 1:05 Pacific time. It's 4:05 Eastern. You can't load Melvin Gordon and take $9,000 of your lineup in cash, not knowing if he's playing or not, at a game time decision.
Yeah, no, I get you. I definitely get you. So we'll move on to the next game. Next game we're going to talk about is going to be Miami Dolphins going into Indianapolis to face the Colts. This game has a 51 over and under, which is the second highest on the slate. Indianapolis is favored by 7.5 in this one.
I actually really like this game a lot. I think Tannehill, you can play him tomorrow at 6,600. You take a look DVOA-wise at the Indianapolis Colts. 18th overall, but 23rd against the pass. They are 27th to wide receiver number ones and 25th to tight ends. There's not really a solid tight end target here in Miami that you can look at. I mean, if you want to go and look at a couple of their tight ends, fine, at 4,300. I'm not going to. But I do think you can play Tannehill tomorrow. They're going to have to score. We know Indianapolis has not been a real good defense all year long. So it's a spot that I'm going to look at for tournaments, definitely. Tannehill at 6,600. But outside of that, I'm not interested in too much, but I do like the game, and I like the game more from the Indianapolis side. Kenny Stills continues to be a very good target for tournaments because of his upside. But outside of that, I mean, I'll look to plug in a little bit of Ryan Tannehill just in case he has a really good game, and I'll probably fly him solo. Yeah,
no, definitely. And then, I mean, on the Indianapolis side of things, there's a couple spots that we definitely want to look at. First thing first, we talked about how much we liked the 49ers quarterback and paying down. I think if you're going to pay up at quarterback, I think you go with Andrew Luck. Safety-wise, I mean, look at this dude. He hasn't got less than 21 fantasy points in 7 straight weeks, giving you a really good floor. He's thrown at least 3 touchdowns in every single one of these games. The guy's just slinging the ball all over the field. And it tells bro, our news feed has been on point today. Right here, he's continue against Miami. Miami's not a very good defense. Blah blah blah. I love Andrew Luck. I think he's a really good play. And then you look to Marlon Mack. I think Marlon Mack is a really good play as well. They're saying Miami is 30th in the league against the rush. Okay, Marlon Mack has shown us glimpses of he could be really good. If he's going to have a monster week this week, I definitely think it's going to be against this Miami Dolphins defense who can't stop anybody on the ground. So I definitely think that he's a running back that you could consider as well. And then, always, Andrew Luck, the fact he's throwing 3 touchdowns every single game, you got to like T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton definitely has some upside for you, just coming off a 27.5 fantasy point game against Tennessee. Go right back to that. Well, as far as the tight ends, I'm not going to really look to the tight ends because Doyle is back now. So you got Doyle and Ebron. They're the exact same price, pretty much splitting snaps. You really just are praying one of these guys gets in the end zone. If I was going to go with any of them, I probably would go with Ebron just because he's been the red zone target all year. He has a ton of touchdowns. Luck feels really comfortable throwing the ball in the end zone. He's the one that's been showing us some upside. 2 weeks ago against Jacksonville, 25 fantasy points. He's done it a couple times already this year. So if I was going to pick one of the tight ends, it would be Ebron. And that's really where I'm at, man. Andrew Luck. I definitely think he's good in all formats. You can look at, Marlon Mack. I definitely think he can have a really good week. 7,000, good price tag. T.Y. Hilton, he's a solid wide receiver on the week. Just if you could pay up at 7,500, if he's the guy you want to pay that price for on this slate, and then you got the tight ends if you want to flip a coin and see who's going to have a better week, and that's it for me, man.
I agree with you 100% on just about all of that. I love Indianapolis this week. I think Andrew Luck is the top quarterback on the board for cash. I think he's the safest play. I think it said it perfect in the newsfeed we have on the site. You can only say so many good things about Andrew Luck before you run out of him. He's been lighting the world on fire.
And the crazy thing about it, bro, is everybody was counting him out. Last year he didn't play, so Andrew Luck ain't gonna do nothing. He can't do nothing. Blah. Everybody, bro. The dude has been top 3 quarterback, period, point blank this year.
He has.
Cool. Hey, let's move on to the last game. We got Pittsburgh Steelers going into Denver to face the Broncos. This game has a 47.5 over-under, and Pittsburgh is favored by 3 in this one. One thing I just quickly, before you get into it, that I want to know is if this game was not in Denver and Pittsburgh was at home, I would absolutely love them more. But the fact that it is in Denver kind of makes it go down a little bit for me, how much I like Pittsburgh personally, especially because, we see it in baseball, we see it in basketball, we see it, in football. When people go into Denver with the altitude, a lot of people can't handle that. And that's just one thing I quickly want to mention. The altitude is a real thing.
The altitude is a real thing. You can look at, you mentioned, MLB, they can do whatever they want to the baseball. There's still a ton of runs that get scored there. Coors always has the highest implied run totals every single night. You talk about NBA, the one thing you have to absolutely always fade and take into consideration is teams going to Denver on the back-to-back. They're like 1-80.
Right.
So it's insane. And then look, when you go there for football, it's altitude, it's cold, so the weather's the air is obviously not ideal, and you're breathing cold, thin air. It's cold, loud. That place is crazy. I do like Pittsburgh though, man. I really do, and most notably, I like Antonio Brown.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the only thing I just quickly want to know is, people talk about home field advantage. Denver is like the most ultimate home field advantage.
Absolutely, it's the air, man. It's the air.
Right.
It's thin.
All right, so get us started with Pittsburgh, man. You got the good side of things, bro.
So Pittsburgh comes in, implied total of 24.75. As you said, they are favored by 3. It's the usual targets. You got to like Ben Roethlisberger a little bit. I think it will be a little bit tougher for James Conner to get rushing yards, but I do think he can get you 100 all-purpose yards between the rush and receiving yards. I love Antonio Brown in the spot a lot. I haven't really been on Antonio Brown heavy, but on this particular slate and this particular matchup, Denver 25th against wide receiver number 1s in DVOA. He gets a matchup in this one. It's a very favorable matchup for him. I mean, facing Bradley Robbie, cornerback rating of 62.23. I do like this matchup all the way across the board. And then the other thing too is when you're looking at DVOA numbers and you're looking at cornerback ratings and that kind of stuff, there's certain receivers you have to throw that out with. And Antonio Brown is one of them. Just because they move him all over the field, he runs crossing routes, he runs the 9 route, he runs a lot of dig routes. He runs every route, and he runs it from every wide receiver position. So you can't just look across the board, especially with an Antonio Brown and say, okay, he's a wide receiver number 1. The DVOA numbers are good. Look, Antonio Brown, they move him all over the field. And, I love Antonio Brown in this game. I can't say it any other way. He's my favorite target for the late games to give you a late hammer. And you can look at a Juju Smith if you like. Vance McDonald continues to get targets and try to do damage. 10 fantasy points last week. He was one of my favorite plays last week. We have noted all year long we've taken tight ends against Denver. I'll continue to play Vance McDonald. I won't load him into every lineup I have, obviously, but I will have exposure to him in tournaments as well. I like the Pittsburgh side of things here. Pittsburgh very, very quietly having a very good season. The one tie they had kind of throws their record off a little bit, but in football, ties are as good as a win. Coming into this game at 7-2, love Pittsburgh. I know it's a tough environment, but I like Pittsburgh to come in here and really control this game and atmosphere.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing about it is Pittsburgh is a much better team, in my opinion. So on the Denver side of things, I mean, there's only a couple spots I'm really going to look. It's mainly just the wide receivers. I mean, Keenum is a guy. I mean, I'm not even going to have any exposure. I'm not going to tell you who I am. He's a guy I don't play. The running back spot. The guy Lindsey had a couple really, really good weeks, okay? And the guy definitely showed us some upside. But now you got Royce Freeman. He's back in the mix. They're going to, pretty much split carries. That's what they were doing when Freeman was healthy earlier in the year. So I mean, I guess you could throw Lindsey in a couple lineups for GPP and just hope that he gets in the end zone. He got in the end zone 2 times last week. He is their goal line running back, but I just don't like the fact that he's really splitting carries. Like I said, if he was the lone running back, 6,800, I would have loved it. But I don't like the timeshare. Then we go to the wide receiver.
Hey, bro, real quick. Royce Freeman's been playing. He's been playing for a while, and he's just like last week. I believe Philip Lindsay had 11 carries, but I'll just pull it up real quick.
No, just not, bro. Freeman was in. He was out the past 2 games before last week.
Freeman was?
Yeah, no, yeah. Royce Freeman was out. He was out against Kansas City, and he was out against Houston.
He was out against Kansas City. You're right. But the game. My point is the games that they've played together. You can look and see they get pretty much. They do split, but Lindsey gets way more love in the passing game, and he's way more explosive. Way more explosive. Philip Lindsay gets the carries, like the meaningful carries. Royce Freeman doesn't.
Right. No, I get what you're saying completely. That makes sense for sure. But like I said, if he was out, then I would have loved Lindsey a lot more. So then I'm gonna go to the wide receiver spot. Emmanuel Sanders, he's had a couple whatever game. I don't know what to do with Sanders because we know Sanders has the upside, but we talked about this at the very, very beginning when the NFL season started, bro. Is Emmanuel Sanders was back in the slot in his natural position. He had a couple really good games, but now that they traded Demaryius Thomas, I just feel like he's right back. He's right back on the outside where he's not very good. I'm not gonna say he's not very good, but that's not his strength. So, I mean, and it's showing us in his recent performance. I mean, he had the past 3 games. He's got you – so the most was 6 fantasy points. I can't pay almost $7,000 for a guy who's giving me a floor like this. Definitely some upside, but I just don't know if it's there. If I was going to go with anybody, I like this guy at 5,400, Courtland Sutton. Look at this guy compared to Sanders. He's been way more consistent. In 3 of the past 4 games, he's got you at least 7.8. The price tag is $1,500 less. I mean, if I was going to go with any wide receiver for the Broncos, I like this guy Sutton. That's really where I'm at, man. I'm not really too excited about the Broncos.
I love Emmanuel Sanders tomorrow.
You like him?
I love him because you talked about it last night. You talked about it last night when you were talking about Zach LaVine and all that, but Emmanuel Sanders can't stand the fact that he's not in Pittsburgh. I mean, he takes it personal. The last time they played, he had 16 targets, 10 catches. He looks to go off against them. And Pittsburgh, their defensive backfield is struggling. It's been struggling. I mean, you've seen it in these games where, they've got these young corners. They like the young corners that they have, but they'll give up a catch or they'll have a pass interference, and then that dude may not be back on the field for a while. They've got like a revolving door with some of these guys in the defensive backfield. I don't mind Sanders at all. I think he's a really good play going, and there's a little narrative there too. And I know we talked about it last night, but this guy has gone out of his way. There was an article today that I had read about Emmanuel Sanders, and he finally opened up about leaving Pittsburgh. And I just think this guy, it's still something that he gets up for. And It's not like football's different, especially when you're not in the same division with a team. You may not see a team, maybe once per every 3 years. And this is I believe only the second chance he's had an opportunity to go play against Pittsburgh since he's not been there. And like I said, the last time he had, I think it was like 16 targets, 10 catches, 160-something yards, and a couple touchdowns. So I like Sanders a lot tomorrow.
Okay, for sure. I mean, I think that's about it, man. I think that's about all I got on this slate. If you got anything else, feel free to add some comments. And if not, man, one thing I'm going to quickly do before we get out of here, I mean, I haven't even looked at the optimizer at all yet. Don't really look at it until probably tomorrow morning when we get all the news. But I'm going to run it and just kind of see where the optimizer's at. And then we can just go from there real quick. Cool?
Run it.
Cool. And one thing I do want to note for people that are viewing this video, we're doing this, a day ahead of, till, this is Saturday. We're not, we don't really run the optimizer till Sunday morning. So I don't want you guys to sit there and try to throw these lineups in and expect them to, I'm not going to say that they're going to lose, but we got a lot of news we have to wait for. So the lines are really not credible. I just want to kind of see what's jumping early in building these lineups, bro. So let me see. I'm running it right now. Sorry, my internet's lagging on me a little bit. Okay, so what do we talk about, bro? First lineup, Andrew Luck. We were just talking about it, man. Connor, Barkley, DJ Moore got me mentioned. Landry, Bray. I knew Bray was going to get in some lineups, bro. You talked about this guy. You liked him a lot. Breda. I'm not going to play Broncos defense. The thing I think they're popping up is because they're so cheap and they expect to get maybe a couple sacks, a couple turnovers. Your boy Jameis Winston. Yeah, man. So I think it's really concentrated around Connor, Barkley, Moore. They're liking Odell a lot. Cameron Breda. You got some Juju in there. Yeah, man. That's a guy we didn't mention. I forgot to mention him. 6,000, Deshaun Jackson. It has a little bit of upside for GPP.
He's questionable right now with a hand injury, I think.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I'm just general idea. You can kind of see where the core is, and I definitely think the Connor and Barkley is a really good combo at running back. Connor's been on fire this season. Yeah, bro, that's it for me. So, hey, I'm ready to get up out of here. Thanks very much, Jeremy, for helping me break down this video and break down this NFL slate. We will be back. Maybe tonight we could come on here and maybe do a cash game line or kind of a breakdown of who we should be looking at for cash tomorrow. But hey, if you guys haven't already, please make sure to take a quick second, click that like button for me down below. Helps me out. I really, really appreciate that. Make sure and go check out the website, dfscheatsheet.com. One more time, we do got the Cyber Monday promo code. What was that again, Jeremy? Oh, got you. It's
CBM25.
C as in cat, B as in boy, M as in man, 25. You get 25% off your first. If you go for a monthly package, it's 25% off your first month. And if you go for the luxury box package, one-time charge takes 25% off that. Thank you guys very much for checking out this video. Good luck to you guys in your guys' contest tomorrow in NFL. If you guys got any more questions, hit me up, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, @RotoBeast. Thanks a lot, guys. Peace out.